Hi, in this session we'll see how to deploy a Spring Boot app into to GKE using Google Artifact Registry. So normally, so this will be the architecture that we'll follow for this session. So normally what we do is like we create a application and then we upload the artifact to a Docker hub, and then the Kubernetes will download this Docker hub image and then it will deploy it. But now instead of using Docker hub, we'll be using a GAR repository. So a GAR is like a Google Artifact repository from Google. So first step is so these are the steps that we will follow for this session. So first we'll create a Spring Boot application. We will Dockerize it, and then we'll configure the Docker so that it points to the GAR repository instead of the Docker hub. And then what we we need to push the Docker hub we need to push the image to the GAR repository, and then we need to configure Kubernetes so that it pulls the image from the artifact registry. So the first step is first we'll create a Spring Boot application. For Spring Boot application, I already have this created, so we'll not create it from scratch, but I'll show you what it is, what that has been already created. So this is a simple Spring Boot application that uses JPA with a simple REST controller that is used to create some user data. So I'll just quickly run this and show. Yeah, so this Spring Boot application has been started. Now if you say localhost setup init, it will create some test data, and if you hit another REST endpoint, it will show what users has been created. That's it. So now the next step is so we created the Spring Boot application. The next step is we need to Dockerize it, right? So for that, so we have to create a simple Docker file. So I'll just quickly create one. So I just say from JDK:8. So I just say copy. So I need to copy this build, the build, the jar is present here, build libs directory. So we just have to copy it and then into some directory. So just say copy build /libs/ okay, and then I'll call this as app.jar, and I just run this entry point followed by entry point java -jar /app.jar. Okay, a simple Docker file. So okay, now we are done with the Docker file creation, but then first we need to point our local Docker to the GAR repository, right? Well, we don't even have the GAR repository yet. So the first step, what we have to do is we'll be creating we'll be creating a repository. So we'll call that repository as say foodie app or EPO. So okay, now after we create this app repository, we need to ensure that Docker has credentials to connect to the GAR. So what we have to do is after we create this repository, we have to create a service account. We have to create a service account that has a Google Artifact Registry repository admin privileges roles, so that using this service account, we'll be able to push images to this repository. So those are the two steps we'll do. So first of all, the repository itself doesn't exist. So what we'll do is we'll create a repository. So I'm going to create a repository. So let's me call this as foodie app repository, and you have to select a Docker because we are going to create a Docker repository. And region, you can choose any region. I'll choose US West one. And yeah, just simply this repository will hold Docker images for foodie app repo. It's foodie. Okay, now the repository is being created. Okay, so it's got created. Now what we have to do is the next step is so the next step is we need to create a service account, right? So let's go ahead and create a service account. Okay, go to IAM secure service accounts. Okay, I already have one created, but I'll delete this so that we'll create it from scratch. Okay, so create a new service account. Let's call this GitLab -CICD-SA. You can name the service account as anything, but I'll be reusing this service account so that in future I'll use GitLab to automatically deploy to Kubernetes. But for now, it's just a name, so you give whatever name you want. So I create this service account. I'll say service account for GitLab and local interaction with Docker with GAR. Okay, now I just say create, and role you need to say Artifact Registry repository administrator. So this is used to push images to the repository. So that's it. So now I have the service account created. Now the next step is so you have the service account created, but in here you need the JSON key, right? You need to have this key, the service account SA key, so that the user will use the service account to connect their Docker local to this repository. So for second thing, we need to create a key and then download this key to my local. So now I go here. This is my service account which I create. So now go to keys, add a key, create a new key, and yep. Okay, so I created a service account key. Now I'll just, it's in my downloads folder. So I just say okay, I'll call it like this. Okay, so you had the we have downloaded the service account key. Now we have to use a Docker command, docker-u, docker login-u, and then but we shouldn't be, we don't have to pass the entire JSON. So we just have to pass a base 64 converted string of this JSON. So first step is we need to create a base base 64 string. So I'll quickly go here. Just say base 64 and I'll simply call this as enc. Okay, now you have this file. Okay, now you have to point your Docker to the GAR repository. So you just say docker login -u underscore JSON -key base 64 -p. I'll just type the same thing, cat cspocdb gitlab -cicd-sa underscore base 64.enc. And followed by you need to give the URL, right? So let me go back here. Let's find out what is the URL. Artifact Registry. So it is this one. US West Docker pkg.dev. So you just have to say https://us -west 1 docker.pkg.dev. Okay, sounds good. Okay, now we have this created. Now in my Spring Boot application, so we created this Docker file, but we didn't create any Docker images, right? So we'll just say, first of all, I'll remove all the Docker images. Oh, I need to start my Docker. I'm now starting my Docker because I didn't start yet. So now let's wait for it to get started. Okay, now it's started. Now what I do is, okay, first z user service, go to this directory. Now we have this Docker file. Okay, so now all we have to do is Docker run Docker build. So now, yeah, now the Docker image is getting created. So now I say Docker images. You can see that there's one Docker image that got created. Now, we have to tag it so that it points to the Docker, the GAR repo. So what I do is I just copy this entire thing and then tag it accordingly. So I just say Docker tag avn/user service :latest to this one /user-service :latest. Now I say Docker images. Now you can see this one is created. Now all you have to do is say Docker push followed by this, and say Docker push space this, and Okay, so it's now trying to push. It should take some time. Before that, we'll see like what we did so far. So what we did is we created a Spring Boot app. So I already created it. We didn't recreate it from scratch, but I already used existing application. So we did that, and we Dockerized it, and then we configured the Docker. We created a GAR repository. You can see that repository is created. We created a service account. We downloaded the service account. We converted to base64. We logged into Docker using this base64 image. We created a Docker file, and we ran Docker build. We tagged it, and then we ran the push command, and let's see, it should have been pushed to the GAR. Let's see. Okay. So the next step is like we already have the service account created, and when we did this docker login -u, it would have created a docker config JSON in our local. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a new secret in Kubernetes. So the secret, this is a secret file. So we are going to create a new secret of type Docker, and then we are going to use the Docker config JSON that we created. So what happens after this is like if you create a Kubernetes YAML file and point it to this image which is being pushed, then Kubernetes will automatically download the images from the GAR repository. So that should be the next step. So let's wait till it properly pushes the Docker image to the GAR. Okay, so if we go and look at this repository, we can see that this image has been already pushed. So the next step is we have to create a Kubernetes secret file and apply them. So what we should be doing is, so we'll go to here. First of all, let's see kget ns namespaces. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to create a secret, right? So when you create a secret, so you just have to say create secret, so and then generic. So gar pool secret is the name of the secret file, and then you have the option to create a secret from a local file, which I'll do that. But we have to first go there. So this is the Docker directory where so if you look at this config.json, and this is where the credentials will be there. So now I am going to create a secret based on this credential. So if you recall, this is nothing but it's based on the service account that we created. So now you just have to say create secret generic gar pool secret, and say from file equal to .docker. This is the name of the JSON I want to, but this is the actual JSON that I'll be using. And then say -n footy -dev. This is the namespace. So I'm going to create a secret in this namespace, and then I have to tell this type of this secret .io/docker config JSON. So now you can see that. So I'll say get secrets -n footy -dev. So yeah, so we got the secret created. So now the next step is we have to create a Kubernetes YAML file, right? So I'll create one file, say pod, say so let me call this as user user service dot deployment, and so again, so I don't have to change anything else. And this one, instead of GCR, I need to put that image location, which is this. Just copy this and paste it here. So you copied this, but you need to tell that you are using that secret, right? So for that you have another tag called image pool secrets, and here you say name is what was the name? It's GAR pool secret. So that's it. Now we got this created. The file is, we created this file. Now what we have to do is go back and apply this. Oh, and one more thing. So I need to create this in this namespace, right? So I say namespace is foodie-div. Okay. So now you just say, okay, first I need to go here, user service, okay, apply -f Kubernetes-pod.yml. Okay, now you can see that the deployment is getting created. Now it is in the status is in pending. If it is not able to if it is not able to pull the image, then it will be in pending. So it'll throw an error. But if it is able to pull the image, then it'll move. The status will move on to running state. So let's wait. Yeah. This should take some time because the image file is more. So it should take some time to download the image. Okay, so we have this pod running. So you can see that this is in running status, which means that it is able to pull. Let's quickly recap on what all we did. So first step is we created a Spring Boot application. And so that application will it's a simple CRUD application. The next step, what we did was we created this repository. We created this repository called Foodie app repository. And so for us to access the GAR repository using Docker, we created a service account, and we downloaded that. We created a service account with that Artifact Registry repository admin role, and then we downloaded the key. We converted into a base 64 image, base 64 version of that key, and then we said like docker login -u, and then we connected to the repository. So we created a Docker file, we ran the Docker build, and then we pushed the Docker image to this GAR. So we had the image created, as you can see from here. We had this image being created in the GAR repository. So now the next step is the Kubernetes should be able to download this the image. So what we have to do is we have to create a secret based on this Docker configuration. So we use the Docker config JSON that we already created. We created a secret, and then we created a manifest file. So in this manifest file, so all we did was two things. So we have to say the location of this image, which is the GAR repository, and what secret are you going to use. So we created this manifest file, and then we said kubectl apply, and then we got this application running. Yep, thanks for your time, and see you in the next session.